Hi, everybody. This is kind of an unscheduled live, which to you, and also share some other things with you. Let me see if I can get the chat up. And you know that if you're probably already tuning in, the hopefully there'll be some people joining us here soon. I wanted to share some things regarding, excuse me, setting good boundaries today. And I just thought I would share some thoughts that would be helpful to you. Hi, Beth from Michigan. Being a Hoosier boy, I understand where Michigan's at. When we talk about boundaries, particularly setting good boundaries for adult children of dysfunctional families, that's where it becomes more difficult. If you've grown up in a healthy family or a healthier family, I think every family has some dysfunction in it for sure, because anytime you have more than one person, you probably got some dysfunction going on. And thank you from Turkey. I appreciate your following very much. In setting boundaries from an adult child or dysfunctional family's perspective, the boundaries are going to feel differently than if you say grew up in a healthy family. It's going to feel very different. And I just thought it would be helpful to talk about that just a little bit so that we can be prepared when we set boundaries. We can set good boundaries. And we understand what's happening when we're doing that. And that has helped me to set boundaries better because I did not have any boundaries. I was pretty much codependent, uber codependent guy for many years. And so I understand the difficulties in feeling guilt and shame and anxiety and timidness about my own self, not knowing my own self. Did I see someone from Australia? Wow, in New Mexico. And thank you for joining very much. You're going to be seeing me more this week, so I hope you'll kind of watch. I don't know if this is a perfect time for everyone, but it seemed to work out pretty well for a lot of people. The setting boundaries is a skill. It is a skill that we can learn to do, and it is a skill that does not. We would kind of see setting boundaries as someone who does that down on stage, but I'm up in the audience. In other words, I can't do what they do. I can just be up here watching people do it, but I really can't do it. And either I'm too afraid, I'm too worried about the consequences, I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings, I don't want someone to think I don't love them. All of those things that cross our mind and our emotions when we're trying to set boundaries. And I wanted to kind of reorient boundaries a little bit today in talking with you and what they're for and how we should think about them. Because I think a lot of people will think about them as a way to change the other person. I need to set a boundary so that they will change. The difficulty with that perspective is certainly I would like them to change. Certainly I'd like to ask them to change. And you have every right to ask someone, please don't do that. You have every right to do that. But many times if somebody's already breaching or breaking your boundaries, then they already have a boundary breaking problem anyway. So it's not like, maybe there's some neurotic, healthy people out there that you can just tell them, hey, and they're sensitive enough and empathetic enough and go, oh, I'm so sorry, I didn't know that was a problem for you. But other people who have boundary issues and boundary problems, it's difficult to get them to understand They just don't understand that, and don't maybe even want to do what you're asking, and that they just figure you should put up with it. That's what you should be doing, is just put up with what's going on. And so when I think about boundaries and working on those for many years, because I think it does take some practice, and I do want to say, as always, calmness is everything. Please watch that video. If you haven't, that's a classic on the YouTube channel, because I talk about why calmness is so important, and calmness is so important for boundary setting. Now, if you say, well, Jerry, I just feel way too much anxiety. I understand, but there's a way to learn to do that to help reduce that anxiety, so that it can come out of your adult and not out of your inner child who's afraid. And that's often where we try to set boundaries rather than from our adult. Because I need to quiet my inner child while I'm setting boundaries with someone. Another way of thinking about it, I need to quiet my emotions and keep focus on my thoughts. Not feelings, but thoughts. As the anxiety goes up, as tension goes up, as upsetness goes up, we want to do the opposite of what the system wants us to do. The system wants us to focus on our feelings, absorbing theirs, being reactive in ours, when actually what we want to do is focus on our thoughts and say, this is not the time for feelings. If I need to set a boundary, it's not the time for me to be talking about my feelings, their feelings. This is simply an adult discussion. I would like to ask you to stop doing that. For example, and again, that's a simple boundary, but they're more complex than that, as we all know. But I want to focus on my message, not the absorbing of the feelings in the interaction between them and me. That's not going to help with a boundary. So, one of the things is, and I'm going to mention this point, and it is difficulty setting boundaries often stems from unresolved attachments. Many people come to me and say, I can't set boundaries. I need to set boundaries. I don't know how to set boundaries. I don't know what my boundaries should be. And again, we can get help for all of those questions. We can get guidance and coaching and help for those things. You can learn more about how to do those things. I've got a number of videos on different topics about self-differentiation and boundaries. And one of the things I think we don't want to forget, though, and people often do, that difficulty setting boundaries often has to do with unresolved attachments. Now, what do I mean by that? In other words, we're still attached to old relationships in which boundaries could not be set. And so we have difficulty with the supervisor, the co-worker, the church member that we go to church with, the friend, the yoga partner, whatever. We have difficulty setting boundaries with them because what we have learned and how we're still attached regarding our family of origin, and particularly the dysfunctional family of origin. Because what did we learn about boundaries growing up in a dysfunctional family? There are none. I mean, that's pretty much what I learned. I mean, there was some privacy, but just emotionally and mentally and things like that, they're just very little. And for some families, those boundaries are totally ripped up to pieces in terms of boundaries. So there were little to no boundaries growing up. Boundaries were to be intruded upon, and you were not to have boundaries. I am to dictate who you are, how you feel, what you think, what you do. None of this, you want to be yourself kind of boundary. That is not acceptable, and it's not generally acceptable in narcissistic home, alcoholic home, often toxically divorced homes, all kinds of dysfunctional homes. we could not say this is what I would like and have it respected, because we often weren't respected. And why weren't we respected? Because my parents did not respect themselves. And why were they not respecting themselves? Because their parents were not respecting them as a valued child or an adult. Didn't mean there was no love. There was love in my family, but it just gets tied in with a whole bunch of other things, as many of you know. So those unresolved attachments are what's so important for setting boundaries. If I go, I don't think I can tell my coworker, I don't think I can tell my coworker that I'd really like her to not play her radio while we're working and she sits right next to me. She may get all upset. I got to work with her. I need to just make her happy. I should just comply and just be a people pleaser. And then I'm just irritated every time I go to work and hear her playing music I don't want to hear, because she's not putting on headphones. She's playing it low, but it's still irritating. And I need to set a boundary about that, a work boundary. Oftentimes we will not want to do that because of what happened to us long ago. When we did try to tell someone no, or we felt voiceless or invisible, then we've got to go back and begin to heal that invisibility. And even practice what would we say now in those situations back then. How would we contemporize that past in which I learned not to have boundaries? Because I wish I would have, I really wish I could have learned boundary setting early on. But my dysfunctional programming taught me boundary setting was hurtful or offensive. That's what boundary setting is. It will only hurt other people, and they will be offended if you set a boundary, because you'll sound better than them. It's selfish. Just all kinds of messages that come with setting boundaries. And so we want to resolve those unresolved attachments from the past, where your boundaries, as Real Deal Prime says, where my boundaries were taken down. I want to begin to rebuild those boundaries back then. And I can journal about that. I can talk to a coach about that. And I can talk to our therapist, and I can talk to someone and go, hey, this is when I was told what I wanted didn't matter. And then I go back and go, but I do matter. And I did matter then. I was a child, no doubt. I couldn't just stand up to the big people, parents, older siblings, etc. But I can go back and begin to resist that negation of my boundaries and see it very clearly, and also see it as, okay, little Jerry, you're not getting your boundary met now. I see that. They're ignoring that. But now I'm with you, big Jerry. I'm the adult now. You're not just a little child in the midst of big people and giants. I'm with you now. And I'm not going to let somebody ignore you. Or how would I say, diss you regarding your boundaries. Now, some people may ignore you. Some people may even diss your boundaries. But then I got something for them. And what I mean is I don't mean weaponizing anything. What I got is, then I need to adjust me with regard to you. And I'm going to get to that in a minute. So unresolved attachments can help you set, healing unresolved attachments can help you set better boundaries. If you're enmeshed with a mother or father or family, you're going to have a tough time setting boundaries. We're going to have to learn some separateness and some detachment and some self-differentiation. Once you start learning some of that self-differentiation and start moving that way, believe it or not, boundaries become more natural. You feel more calm about them. You feel more confident about them. The more enmeshed we are, then we're just floating around trying to survive with regard to boundaries, because then anybody can, pull us by the nose anywhere they want us to go. And boundaries are in which I nail my foot to the floor. Now you can take me all around, but you're not taking me anywhere else. My foot is still nailed. And I think someone mentioned internal boundaries, that the more we detach in here, the more we will have internal boundaries, which will translate to external boundaries. And then I don't feel so bad, in saying, hey, and I mean no harm. This is my boundary, and I mean no harm. It's not for weaponizing. It's for me doing, and then I'm going to get to this, self-care. Secondly, from an adult child of dysfunctional family perspective, good boundaries often feel harsh, as I've been describing, rejecting. They're full of guilt for even both parties, shame for both parties, and detachment, healthy distance, feels unloving, selfish, uppity, you're better than me. It has all of those dynamics, but that's just the programming from the toxic family programming. That's not reality. It's what we think. It's how we experience boundaries, but we've been taught to experience it that way. If you are taught to feel guilty if you set a boundary with me, I can do a lot to control you. I mean, then I'm in control. And so I need you to feel guilty, and I need you to feel that system's guilt, because that's not true guilt. If I set a boundary and say, please don't step on my foot, and I feel guilty, is that real guilt? Is that genuine guilt? Is that true guilt? No. Why should I feel guilty about saying, please don't step on my foot? And I don't want you to do that again, please. I should feel no guilt about that whatsoever. There shouldn't be any guilt about that. But I still feel guilty. Guess where that comes from? That's the old systems guilt that starts to creep up in my lower brain here and starts to creep up and starts to get me. But if I can recognize that wait a minute, this is false guilt. This is not true guilt. True guilt is when I've done something I shouldn't have done. Not done something as I reflect on it as an adult, and it's totally okay and appropriate. Yeah, if you really loved me, you would swallow this poison because I want you to. Exactly. And then if I say, no, I don't want to swallow that poison, well, what's wrong with you? Well, actually, I don't know. Maybe I'm healthy. Maybe there's nothing wrong with me. I don't want to do it. And I'm surprised you're even suggesting I do. So we have, again, good boundaries, once you start doing them, are going to feel awkward, rejecting, full of guilt. They might feel harsh. Or then we also have the issue of, and then I'm not really worthy to set a boundary. I'm just not that important. And all of that's an illusion too. That is an illusion. That's family systems think from a dysfunctional family that you're not worth being able to set a boundary. And we have come to believe that. And And that if we, well, and that's a good belief to have in a dysfunctional family because it keeps the family dysfunctional. You don't want people just going out there on their own and becoming healthy. That's going to mess up the family system quite a bit, and they're going to be really uncomfortable. Really uncomfortable. Let me continue here. Thirdly, try to use boundaries as self-love and self-preference and self-needs. In other words, use boundaries to adjust your emotional location with other people. And if you notice, I said emotional location, because that distance or space is very important. Like in my videos, I talk about the tennis court. And if somebody's over on my side of the tennis court, we're enmeshed. If I'm over on their side of the tennis court, we're enmeshed. And I want to be on my side, I want them on their side. Well, if they've jumped all the way over to my side, then I need to adjust my emotional distance with them. And I may want to go end round and go over on the other side of the tennis court. They can stay on this side, I'm going to stay on this side. But I'm not staying over here with them. My boundaries are going to tell me what do I need to do. What are the consequences if they don't? What am I going to do? Use boundaries to adjust your emotional location with them. More separateness, more space. Maybe we call it contact adjustment. Again, I don't want to set a boundary to make them change, because I can't change somebody else. You know who I have the power over to change? Me. I can change me. And I can give them the information that I want them to have in a boundary or suggestion or preference. You can ask someone, please don't do that. If someone jumps over to your side of the tennis net emotionally, and all asking you all up and say, hey, how much do you make for a living? And the, how much do you make for a living? How much do you pay for that car? Just all intrusive kind of questions that we might get. If they're over on your side, you can ask them, oh, well, I think, that's not something I really want to talk about. I'm not sure why you're asking, but, I just don't know that we need to discuss that today. I can do that, and if they are okay with that, or they accept that, then we're fine. If they don't, then I got to jump over on the other side of the tennis net. Then I need more distance in this relationship because you're not respecting, even when I'm trying to put a regulator between us. Because boundaries can actually help us get closer. And I know that may sound crazy. When a couple comes to me and they're married and they are very, very distant with each other, do you know what that tells me? They're way too close. And so, they're way too close emotionally. And that's why they have to maintain that distance. And they often don't recognize that. I wouldn't have either. But it is a way to get out of that dynamic. So, again, we're not trying to change them, we're trying to change us. They're for us to regulate ourselves. And if someone's willing to accept my boundary, fine. If they're not, then I need to make some adjustments, whether that be with a narcissist or whatever. I can make that attempt. If they have no interest in respecting me, I need some emotional distance, and I might even need some physical distance. Physical distance does not equate physical distance does not equate to emotional distance. Some people can be enmeshed with their family, go move 2,000 miles away, they're still enmeshed with their family. It's just they're not as close, or they don't talk as often, or don't see each other. But I think it's really something that you want to consider that we could. I always try to go with emotional distance first to work on that, then physical distance. Unless there's abuse, unless there's physicality, then okay, all bets are off. I'm not saying that. We don't stay there for abuse. But if they're just good neurotic folks who got issues, then what we want to do is to try to set emotional boundaries first and get some distance in here. Then if we need physical distance, then we go with the physical distance. But I'm going to take whatever distance I got to take if you are not willing to accept my boundaries. Then I'll go to the nth to do whatever distance I got to do. Not because I want to, but because you are requiring me to. And I think that's what so many people don't realize. And yeah, stealing your car would not necessarily be a good thing. And certainly I'd be going, no, if you're going to be into stealing my car, then I need more distance, quite a bit more distance, because you're acting sociopathically or whatever you're doing. And the, where was it? Oh, I'm prepared to do whatever distance I need to do to honor my boundaries. And guess who I'm standing up for? Me. Standing up for me. And that's what I've missed for so long. We didn't stand up for us and weren't taught to stand up for us. In fact, we were taught not to stand up for us. I also, number 4, I wanted to talk about briefly, be emotionally and mentally prepared for worst case. And by the way, I've got a online program that's going to be starting here, I think May 7th. There is a pre-launch discount that you can get up until May 6th if you want to do the program. And I talk much more about all of these things and go into great detail and exercises. And I really encourage you to take a look at that on the website and check that out. I think you will find it. I wish I would have had these modules that I have for this online program, which is a self-paced learning program, 35, 40 years ago. If I'd had that somewhere that I could go listen to more of that, it would have been a life changer for me. I had to learn a little slower because I had to go a little different way because there wasn't as much out there then. And there certainly wasn't as much for lay people like you and I. I become a professional, but as a lay person, you know, I needed somebody who could explain it in lay terms that I could understand and use and benefit and grow. So, fourthly, be emotionally, mentally prepared for worst case. And again, I think that's what's important. If I'm going to set a boundary, think about the worst case situation. What's the worst that they could do? Whatever it is, prepare for that. Now, if it doesn't happen, then you're in a good position. If it does happen, then you're ready to take whatever steps you need to take at that point. But plan and prepare, and I always try to help people plan and prepare for their boundary setting. It shouldn't just be off the cuff, because many times off the cuff means, oh, they're just upset right now, I don't have to pay attention to what they're saying, because often we're setting boundaries via reactivity. Boundaries via reactivity often doesn't work. Boundaries via adult us, calm us, direct us, that's much more powerful. And I can remember even making statements to a family member where, I would say, hey, I just want to tell you, I do not want you to ever say that again to me. That's the adult Jerry talking. I'm not overreactive. I'm not hating the person. I'm just saying I do not want you to ever say that to me again. And in my mind, I'm going, if they do, I have my plan. I've got the plan. Because that crossed the boundary. And I need to become serious. Not so overly serious that I can't, that I'm frozen, but I need to become serious about this. Now, they may take it as not serious. Oh, Jerry, you're just so oversensitive. Oh, this is no big deal. I stay serious and go, I understand that's how you feel. I just want you to never say that to me again. And be quiet and stop and let that hang out there. And then if they choose to ignore that, well, then I need more internal and external distancing from them because of their own choosing, not because of mine, but because of their own choosing. I'm not trying to end the relationship or make it worse, but I won't put up with any relationship just for a relationship. That's kind of suicidal. And I think, and I've said so many times, even with families and friends, and I can live without my family. I don't want to, but I can live without my family. But I cannot live without self-love. That's much more, and self-compassion and self-care. I can't live without that. And I think that's an important thing to remember. Well, there have been a number of comments that I've seen gone by here. I would be open to taking just a couple questions today if you have some. Yes, and then I just had a comment about religion and religion in the families. Yeah, you sprinkle in unhealthy religion, and then you've got a problem. And a lot of families, there will be some unhealthy religious dynamics in there that are not healthy spirituality, not healthy views of God. And I'm not judging anybody's beliefs, but I though I do have a standard, and the standard is healthy spirituality. And I know that some people don't even believe it needs to be healthy. It just needs to be whatever they believe the Bible is, or the Quran, and I just have come. I think healthy spirituality, healthy religion is so very important. And I've taught religion and psychology for years, and I don't know everything. Certainly not. I wish I did. If you're, I think I read that question. Your mother was, I just missed it, and I wish I could, why can I not have my, there it is, there, I got it. Now I can actually, your comments kept disappearing for me, I'm sorry. Now, I got it. Now, how come they disappeared again? Okay. Well, I think, Beth, it's a good question. What if your mother, has CPTSD from childhood abuse and bad marriage to a pastor? Should I be more forgiving and understanding? Well, I'm always for more forgiveness and understanding. I think I can have forgiveness and understanding for a malignant narcissist. Now, that doesn't mean that I want to live with them, and that doesn't mean I want to have lots of interaction with them. Because I think even those who have personality disorders suffer as well. And I do have some compassion for them. But it's like having compassion for a sociopath is problematic. I still have some compassion for a sociopath. They can't form healthy relationships. They don't care about anybody or anything. I think that's very sad. I have compassion for them, but that doesn't mean I'm going to leave my wallet out. And so I think it's okay to have that. And then also, I like to challenge those who've grown up, who have grown up with abuse or been in a bad marriage and had struggles. That I can and see, I don't neutrality, as a comment just made. I don't think having neutrality means you have no compassion. I think compassion and neutrality can go together. That's what I believe, and I've experienced that. And you can have compassion and neutrality. My mother could be a big victim, and poor her, and this and that. And I have compassion for her. I knew how she grew up. I knew what she went through. I knew what's gone on. And I know, how she set up her own life and things like that. And I have compassion, etc., for her. But, what she is willing to do, what is she willing to do for herself? And how does her dysfunction interfere with respecting me and valuing me as a person? And I have a high standard for that. I have some standard, but not, if somebody doesn't like me, okay, then they don't like me. Fine, that's cool. But basic respect is what's very important. And I think that's where that neutrality comes from. I can respect people on a basic level, and that I still have some connectedness with them, and I have respect for them, or can treat them respectfully. I may not respect their behavior, but like with the mother in that situation, she's been through a lot. You can have compassion as long as it doesn't become contagious dysfunction for you. I don't want to pick up any fleas from people who have been through lots of bad things, who have no interest in changing. Who are not interested in changing themselves and trying to get better, or trying to listen, or trying to heal, or trying to recover, trying to do the best they can. And I value something with people trying to do the best they can. And I know some people's best can be pretty minimum. And how much compassion your values are, what your beliefs are, that all comes into how connected you want to be. But the obligation is not there. And so I'm always for love and compassion, and then let's see how things go. And is there room enough in this relationship for me to exist? Like with the mother, and your mother could be anybody out there. Lots of fathers, mothers, brothers, sisters, friends. If they've been through a hard time, gone through lots of difficulties, I have compassion for that. But does our relationship have room for me? And unfortunately, the more traumatized you are, the more dysfunctionally programmed, oftentimes does not leave room for other people in the relationship. It's all about them. It's all about them. Now, if it's not, then you have some room to maneuver if you want to continue a relationship with a family member. Because, again, most every relationship has some good parts and bad parts. I haven't found too many relationships that only have one. I'm sure there's some few that have one side, but most have some good parts and bad parts. I just don't want the bad parts interfering with my sense of wellness, wholeness, my sense of self, and my own value. It can't challenge those. That I've worked too hard, and I am too valuable for that. I'm not too good for that. I'm too valuable for that. And what I mean by that is I'm not better than anybody else. I am just knowing that I am important for me. That's what I'm important to me and for me. That's what I mean. Any other questions someone might have? See if I can. Ooh, that's a pretty good question. I might. Yeah, I'm glad you sent that again. I can't stop feeling jealous of my golden child sister. I'm the scapegoat. My parents just think of me as subordinate, and I can never seem to change my status. Great question. And I have some videos on. Scapegoating and being a scapegoat, because I think there's a very powerful family role, and understanding why we're in that role is very important. And then also understanding that I first have to get the role out of me rather than waiting on them to change so that I will feel less like a scapegoat, if that makes any sense. The role's got to come out of me. They're going to keep, they need that role. They need you in that role. So they're not going to be very amenable to, oh, well, you're right. We have been kind of treating you as a scapegoat. I think we'll all change. Shall we all vote and change and not have her be a scapegoat? No, they're not going to do that. They're going to keep doing the scapegoat because it fits the family dynamics of unresolved anger, unresolved attachment issues, frustrations, guilt, shame, addictions, all kinds of things. All that's wrapped up in there in the dysfunctional family, and then it has to go somewhere, and it will go to roles. The lost child suffers because of all of that anger and stuff going in there. The scapegoat suffers because we got to have a place to put all this crap emotionally, and it's not conscious, it's unconscious. It may seem conscious to you to see them do this, but it's generally unconscious. They actually think they're doing the right thing. I mean, and you're kind of going, what? Because they are programmed too. They have their own programming. So I got to deal with my programming. How do I get scapegoat out of me rather than how can I get them to stop scapegoating me? That can reverse the polarity of what's going on in terms of the emotional circuitry that's going on between the two. The more I try to resist it with them, the more they will probably stick me in that corner of being the scapegoat. The more I let go of it, and the more I deal with that on my own and deal with my sense of being a scapegoat and how I feel about it, how I feel about me, how I choose to live. Let's see here. Why the golden child doesn't necessarily have a better situation than the scapegoat role can shift sometimes, but it's the same circus of insanity. Absolutely. And if roles can change in families. I've been the scapegoat and the golden child, and I've been the lost child, and I've lived long enough that I've had lots of opportunities to audition for different parts in the family. That was kind of an unconscious audition, I'll have to say that. But it is the same circus. And so what we want to do is not shift roles, but to get all the way out of the box. Not just shift places within the box. We want to get all the way out of the box. So that scapegoat, lost child, those are not me. They are not me. They're absolutely not me. You can behave the way you want to behave, family. Hey, I can't stop you from behaving that way, but it's all rather silly and ridiculous. And if you're going to keep me as a scapegoat, and you're not going to invite me to Thanksgiving and Christmas dinners, and then I need to work on getting other plans for Thanksgiving and Christmas. Because I don't have to have those gatherings to be happy and healthy. I don't have to. And would it be nice? Of course it would be nice. But a lot of me having a brand new sports car would be nice. But can I be happy without one? Yes, I can. And I think so. Those different roles. It's interesting because when I talk about getting the family out of you, that's again a part of the program that is coming up May 7th. That has 6 large modules, exercises, things that go along with that. There's a pre-launch discount for anyone who signs up before May 6th or before, I believe. And I really think it would be worthwhile to check that out. It even has a money-back guarantee. If you're not changed by this module, I don't know what to tell you. I'm not a perfect teacher. I'm not the ideal vessel for all of this information. I'm really not. I wish I were. Other people might do it much better than I do. But I really do believe you will not be the same after this program. And I've had people say that before. This is, hey, I've been in therapy for 20 years and nobody ever said anything like this. Because I like this perspective and I think it's the most helpful. Because that's why I chose it for myself. This is my own recovery program, my own recovery theory that have come from others. I mean, I've certainly borrowed from others. There's no doubt now. I give credit to them. But I really think it's the best way to look at your relationships and how you change. And make real change. Not just shift around the circus. Not just go from here and then you fall back into the rut. But I mean real change where you don't go back into the same rut. That's what I consider real change. Well, I think I need to call it a day. Please check out that online program. There's also a new mini training that I have available. It's totally free. It is totally free, and you can get 84 minutes of training just for signing up to watch it. So please feel free to do that. And I think that's another thing I want to give away here. And I want to thank you all for watching. I'm going to be coming back on live hopefully tomorrow and maybe even for the next few days. Thank you so much for your questions. You have a great day. And be wise.